Is there anything that I'm not allowed to?
No, I don't give a
Okay, nice. Oh, this is going to be way more fun then.
Lisa Vanderpump, my aunt, the queen of reality TV,
I don't think many people know this, but after the first season of Real Housewives,
joins Vanderpump for her most revealing interview ever.
Why did you decide to do Real Housewives? Vanderpump Rules. Biggest season ever. You then recast. Expose all dirty secrets.
I never talk about this shit.
You had something to do with the initial story.
When Kyle accused me of selling a story...
You think I would give a story to Radar Online?
Yes.
Bye, Kyle. Show yourself out, darling.
I had so many stories that I could have sold over the years and never had.
I'm desperately sad that I will never be able to show my father, your brother, what I'm building.
Yeah. You've got his name. You make him proud. That's all we can do. Another thing that was very difficult, and if you're being candid, we've never spoken about. I went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Vanderpump Rules was mentioned twice in the presidential roast, and I thought, I guess we made it. We're right in the middle of the zeitgeist.
But what does it mean to you to be a Vanderpump?
You were getting such a free ride, by the way, with that name.
Would you ever go back to Real Housewives? I'm Sam Vanderpump, born into a family of entrepreneurs. However, I'm forging my own path, running a foreign exchange brokerage, working with some of the biggest global brands. Each week, I sit down with the power players, innovators, and legacy builders in my network to uncover the bold moves, breakthrough moments, and behind-the-scenes grits that turn big ideas into filthy rich realities. Welcome to Filthy Rich, the podcast where money meets meaning and success leaves a story. To the world, she's reality royalty and the queen of Beverly Hills. But to me, she's Auntie Lisa. With a long list of successful businesses to her name and an expanding empire, her astonishing achievements speak for themselves. But how much do you really know about the woman whose last name I share? Welcome to Filthy Rich, my aunt, global icon, Lisa Vanderpump.
Wow, I'm not sure I'm that rich. I'm pretty filthy, but yeah. So what you got? Give me your best shot.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. This is going to be good fun.
I'm here doing it because I love you very much and I think you're going places and I want to support you. How about that?
Good. So expose all dirty secrets, Lisa Vanderpump.
Listen, let's be honest. If there were any dirty secrets, they would be out there a long time ago, that's for sure.
So I'm a bit late to the party, am I?
Yeah, but you know, listen, go ahead. Ask me anything.
We've got restaurants, bars,
Yes.
properties, wine, flowers,
Yep.
TV shows,
Yes.
empire.
Yeah.
Where did it all start? Come on, let's go
started-
to the back to the beginning.
It started here. That's, that's a very good question. Listen, I went to drama school. You actually tried to copy me and went to the same one many years later. So obviously I'd been in television. I got my voiceover contract 5 years. So I had my full equity card by the time I was 12, which had to do 40 weeks work. So I'd been in television a lot, and then marrying Ken, you know, he had a wine bar and a nightclub, and then we started, I married Ken after 3 months of knowing him. That was 43 years ago, so that was probably one of the bravest things I've done. And taking risks, because he was a very naughty boy. And then we started the restaurant. So then, you know what? Everything's authentic. The television career has been in my life for years. As you know, my father, your grandpa, was a creative director in television. And Ken with the restaurants, and then all my passion projects.
Something a lot of people don't know about how you and Ken started this empire. And it, like you said, it started right here in London. You've obviously got Tiger, which was
Yes.
Piccadilly Institute, China White, Village, Shadow Lounge. These are all global names of bars across London that
China
people don't
White,
realise.
to be fair, wasn't ours. It was underneath Cheers, I believe. The Cheers was ours. We did have a lot of iconic places for sure. We had the Pheasantry on King's Road, which is an iconic building, a listed building. And then we sold out. We decided we wanted to retire. So we sold out to a public company. When you think you want to retire, you think you've got enough money to do it. And then after a couple of years, when you're not really getting the income, you think, oh shit, I've got to get back to work again. So then we started to build up again and sold out for the second time. But I think we've had a total of, I don't know, maybe 30-something restaurants, bars, clubs.
You sold out for a pretty big figure.
But this was years ago.
I
It
mean,
was a lot bigger then.
I know, it was a huge number then.
Well, yeah, I think it was probably in about, let me think, it was 1998, was it that we sold out? Yeah, I think we got like 11 million pounds, but that was a lot of money then. I mean, it's still a lot of money, but you would, in the same situation, sell out for a lot more. You sell out on a multiple of 5, so whatever profit we were making, you know, we sold on a multiple of 5.
Where did you go next? What was your plan after London? You'd conquered London.
You know, it's very interesting with Ken, because I remember when we first got married, somebody said to us, why do you want to settle down? You know, you're 21 years old. So I don't want to settle down. I just found somebody I wanted to play with. So life was always an adventure with Ken, and we weren't the kind of people that were going to move into a house. I think we moved a ridiculous amount of times because we made money on property as well. I mean, we sold one of our first houses to Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits. That was in Chepstow Villas, next to Portobello Road. Little did I know that our family would own most of Portobello Road years later. That's Warren.
Good old cousin Warren.
Yeah, exactly. And then we bought a house that we sold to an Arabian ambassador for a lot of money. Those houses now are probably worth about 50, 60 million pounds. But at the time, we sold it for like, I think, 3 million pounds, which seems such a lot of money.
That's
but now you couldn't buy a one-bedroom apartment in the same road for that money. So we made money developing property as well. That was our passion. So again, if you look at all the things I do, I was designing the property with Ken, which is kind of ridiculous that I could design a property at 23 years old that Mark Knopfler would buy or the Sultan of Brunei would buy, but design was my passion. Now I have a design company with Nick Elaine, Vanderpump Elaine, and we've been nominated twice last year for Restaurant of the Year in design. Wolf was nominated and Pinky's in Vegas. So this was a passion. So I think the essence of my career has always been based on passion projects. So if you think I have a flower brand, nobody's more obsessed with flowers than me. Always have been, arranging them, buying them down the market. And I can't believe how expensive they are in England. Because in Los Angeles, we go downtown, we buy them by the shitload, put a whole car full of them. And here you just get a bunch that big, you know. So it's extraordinary. So I have a flower brand. I love great wine. We have a wine brand. I love dogs, so a lot of our money personally has gone into saving dogs. I've spoken at Congress. That again is a passion project. I work like hard with a great team of people, selfless people that just want to save beautiful four-legged furry people, and we work very hard to make sure we get the humane treatment. Spoken at Congress, passed Resolution H401 that we co-wrote. And we really moved towards creating a world for more humane treatment of dogs.
I mean, I always remember growing up.
Well, you're a bit of a dog as well. You were.
Let's not get into that.
Did I treat you humanely?
Always.
Well, there you go.
I mean, so I remember it growing up. You were always a perfectionist with everything you did. You know, we went to your houses. You were the matriarch of the family. And when you say you had this affinity for flowers, I remember the flower displays being absolutely unbelievable around the houses. Everything
I love that.
You did was fantastic. And
I love that. That's a great memory, and honestly, that's a great compliment. You know what I always say to Ken? He's so lucky in one way that all the things that I love, dogs, music on all the time, flowers, cooking, were all very comfortable things. It could have been so different because I'm an addictive personality. So luckily, the things that I liked, it wasn't like, you know, I was obsessed with scale electrics or something stupid that I couldn't, you know what I mean? It was always about flowers. It was always about dogs. It was always about design. So I think that helped make our life very comfortable.
What makes your businesses so successful?
It's bloody hard work. It's being unique. I think it's taking risks. But I think life has changed. I really do. And I think the world has changed. And also COVID has changed a lot of things, especially in the restaurant business in America. Hundreds of thousands of restaurants closed down in America. Gen Z has changed the face of a lot of hospitality. And I think that we had, or Ken had, I'm not going to say I had them, but I kind of do, balls of steel in terms of taking risks and being nervous and thinking, are we doing the right thing? And making things unique, doing your research. And I think when people, if you walk into Pinky's, Vanderpump Paris, Wolf, Vanderpump Cocktail Garden, all those restaurants, Sir, Tom Tom, I think you see and you feel that you're immersed in something different, and they're all passion projects.
How did that then end up to being on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills?
Well, good question. Jennifer Stallone, Sly's wife, she and I mean, now they live in Palm Beach, but at the time we were very friendly. We lived very near each other, and I adored her children, and Sly was an interesting character for sure. She was saying to me, listen, you've got to watch this. And I remember sitting on Sly Stallone and Jennifer's bed, and we watched The Real Housewives of New York, and she said, they're going to do one at Beverly Hills. She said, you got to do it. Because I was always ridiculously, you know, out there and stupidly funny and saying shit that nobody else would, you know, and I didn't really care. And I was like, oh, Jennifer, I can't do it, you do. She said, I'm not doing it. She said, I would never do that, and it's not a good fit for Sly and I. But later on, they actually did a reality show that was produced by the same company that produces one of my shows. And I said, oh, maybe I'll go for the audition. Then I thought, no, I wouldn't. Then somebody reached out to me, a group of women, and they said, will you go on the audition with all of us? And I said, no, take me off. I didn't really like these women. I thought, I'm not going in with them. They're a bunch of like weirdos in Beverly Hills.
Is this the group of women that ended up being on the show?
No. Well, that too. So then somebody else reached out to me. They looked at my profile. I was the quintessential Beverly Hills housewife. I was married, had children, had a big fuck-off house in Beverly Hills, you know, like with a tennis court, you know, like a...
Wasn't a small bit of change, that house, was it?
Yeah, that was quite a lot of money. That was probably... Yeah, I think they're selling now for like $30-40 million. It was nice to have a really good house. But, you know, Sam, I have no problem. I don't brag about these things. I'm talking to you now because it's a financial and it's to me, that's never what makes you happy. But, you know, also Ken and I, nobody's ever given us anything. We just worked our arse off for everything we've had and tried to be good people and look after our family along the way, as you know. I had a business in Beverly Hills, so I actually had a job. I wasn't trying to make a career out of being a housewife. I had a very pretty restaurant in Beverly Hills where they could film at. And so I went in for the audition and they said, fill in this card. And I was just like, the audition, you know, profile, sex, yes, please. You know, I was like, stupid shit I wrote on it. You know, I didn't even write, you know.
Was it just a joke to you?
Yeah, and so they said to me, oh, tell us, you know, one of the questions was, tell us about your sex life. Like, it's, you know, we're British, don't do it. And I said to the camera, what, with my husband or with everybody else? And they were like, oh my God, we've got to write it here, you know? And so I never took that seriously. So they came to me and they said, yeah, we want you to do it. And then Andy, he went on record saying I wasn't going to green light that show because we had it in Orange County until I saw your tape. Now, he might as well have put a target on my back with the other women. And they gave me a spin-off for the second season. So it kind of worked very well, but I also saw it for what it was, that if I could highlight the things that I did authentically, it was a great vehicle in the greatest medium in the world.
Why?
You know, I love you, but I never talk about this shit.
Okay, let's start with why, though? Why did you decide to do Real Housewives?
Well, you know what? At first I thought, no, this isn't for me. Because when I saw them all fighting, you know me. I mean, I have no problem reading somebody and telling them, but that is not me. I'm not a combative person that sit there and argue. So I thought, no, that is not for me. But then when they didn't green light it, I started to think about it. You know what? I do want to do this. And then when we decided to do it, I liked it. I thought it was fun, but I didn't like the fighting. And as soon as I became a target, because look, I think it was difficult because it was the same production company, the same network, and suddenly I was doing another project that had my name on it where I was a producer, but also doing Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. How that wouldn't provoke certain feelings, I think wasn't possible. So every other season, I used to get this kind of lambasted with, kind of aggressive accusations. And then when your dad died, I'm very honest about that. We were devastated, to lose my only sibling, to lose your dad. I would cry if there wasn't any milk in the fridge. And I started thinking, I can't do this. I can't do it. And I'd said a few times, I don't really want to do it anymore, and they'd always say, come back, you narrate the show, people are invested in you. And I think I had a great relationship with the producers who were also producing Vanderpump Rules, so I went back. I remember when Kyle accused me, of selling a story to Radar Online, and because you don't know what Radar Online is, it's like, I don't want to highlight them because I don't want another story about me, as if I didn't even have a publicist. I could give a shit about publicity and stories, and if I was going to sell a story, it wouldn't be something that would be potentially damaging to my dog foundation, because our main ambition for all these dogs is to never end up in a shelter. So it seemed ridiculous, and also I had so many stories that I could have sold over the years and never had, and the ridiculousness. And when you swear to somebody on your children's life, if you say, I swear to you on my children's life, that is not true, not only did I not know, that should be it.
Me as your nephew, not that I'm biased. I mean, I know for a fact
you should be
you
biased.
don't. Well, I am, but I know for a fact you don't lie.
Yeah.
And there's not a thing.
Exactly.
If you say you didn't do it, it wasn't done because you hate liars.
Exactly. It's my Achilles heel as well. So
if you were going to put them under the bus, you would actually bury them. You wouldn't do something so minuscule.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous, the whole. But did you know it's actually called a scandal now, that whole situation?
Really?
Yeah, it's got called a whole scandal.
Yeah, like PuppyGate or something.
That's the one, yeah.
But
it must be quite good to be that iconic that when you have an argument with someone, they name a scandal after you.
Yeah, I know, right? Who knew? But you know what? I think in one way it did me a favor. I'm very close to the producers because we produce Vanderpump Rules still in its 12th season. It's been nominated for Emmys and 3 Emmys, and it's just been rebooted. I heard somebody said that one of the producers said, at least Vanderpump is a wild card. And I thought, well, that's not, because I've never taken a day off. I always show up on time and totally professional. I always play the long game. First thing I always say to people is, when you work with me, you're going to say, I've never worked with somebody that's so easy. I play the long game, create relationships, and make sure I do a really bloody good job, get in there and out of there, and be the person that I would want to work with,
Would you ever go back to Real Housewives?
You know what? I was with Andy the other day, and he said, when are we coming back? And, I've been very fortunate that a lot of the fans always say, come on, we want you back, I mean, so I said to Andy, he said, when are you coming back? Like to Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I said, you know what, Andy? He said, yes, Vanderpump. I said, why don't you make me a really good financial offer? make me a really good financial offer. He said, yeah. I said, you know, something that I can't refuse. He said, yeah. I said, then I'm going to take that offer and I'm going to tweet it, put it out there on social media and tell you to fuck off. And he was like, okay, Vanderpump, probably that's a no then.
So is that an outright no, or do we
Yeah,
never...
it's an outright no.
Right.
But, you know, it was also... I like producing my own shows because I like the autonomy. I don't want to have to defer to anybody unless I think it's something I will gain experience from. I did it for 10 years. How many episodes of reality television have I done? Probably something like hundreds and hundreds. So I don't think there'll be any gain for me going back. And also, I feel that I don't want that housewife label, but can I minimize it and say it wasn't a great springboard? No, it was fantastic. I had brilliant times on it, and it would have been different. You know, when I sat down and had the final conversation with Dorit, I said, well, you got to tell me you believe me. And PK said, if Lisa says that, that's good enough for me. And she said, well, no, I don't. But you know what? We can move on. I said, no fucking way. We're not moving on. Not moving on, because that means you're still calling me a liar, and I'm not doing that. And so for me, it was time to go. I think there was a lot of jealousy on that show.
See, that's interesting. You mentioned PK because you don't speak to any of the females on the show.
Not really. I mean, Garcelle's a good friend of mine. She just left because I think she felt like hurt, very hurt by them being, you know, unfair to her. So I'm not using the word bullied, but I would if it wasn't such a label and triggering word. But, you know, when she left, I didn't have any contact. But you know what? They still talk about me, apparently. You know, let them do that. They flash back to me. And I haven't seen it since the day I left. I didn't watch that season. I saw that scene on social media when I said, get out of my house. And Ken says, goodbye, Kyle. But no, I haven't watched it.
Because the reason I asked was, because you and PK go back years.
I have defended him a couple of times. I was on the cover of Us magazine, and there was a big story on lots of things, you know, I'd achieved in life, in television, and I defended him in that, and I defended him the last time I was on Watch What Happens Live. I'm lucky enough to watch What Happens Live on my own, which is an unusual situation. So we always have really, you know, good conversations. And I talked about him and defended him being a good father. I have no axe to grind with PK at all. If I saw him, yeah, it would be good to see him. I saw Maurizio recently, a few weeks ago. We speak, hi, how are you? He's having the time of his life. And yeah, that's it. It seems like whenever you see him on something, he's like got some other gorgeous person on his arm, and yeah. But you know what? I felt very sorry for that because I know she held that marriage very high, you know, and it was very important to her, and I think it's a shame. I always think it's a shame. And the children, I would never, ever rub my hands in glee. Whatever I thought of anybody, to see their marriage fall apart is, yeah.
No, one thing I would always say about you, you're a real familial kind of human being.
Yeah,
and
I think family is,
yeah,
and I would not wish that for them. But, you know, hopefully they'll go on to have great independent lives or work it out, whatever. But I would never wish that, no.
Real Housewives was definitely a springboard. What would you say about reality TV and your businesses?
I think one of the key things for me over the years is authenticity. I think the audience are very smart, and I think if you try to concoct something for the cameras, then they can normally smell a rat, and so can the network. But if they're documenting your life, then it's authentic. That's why I say I don't put my name on anything. I put my name on a business that I'm involved with, and if that's part of my life, then it's good to document that, right? But everything I'm involved with, dogs, flowers, wine, hospitality, is what I've always been involved with. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I'm coming out with a swimming pool cleaner. I don't even know what, or a dishwashing soap or something. Or people come and say, oh, Lisa, would you be the brand ambassador for this? I'm like, no, I don't know anything about it. Forget it.
You know, that's funny you say that. Someone asked me yesterday about, would you, how you monetize your social media following, and I went, you don't.
I don't.
I don't. You don't do that. You don't go to the traditional routes.
Occasionally.
If it's something you believe
in. If it's something, you do a post, on Instagram, occasionally I do it. But I don't have a publicist. There's a PR machine that works with Caesar's Palace. It's not really me. I like authenticity. I don't mind how hard I work. And I would say my advice to you, getting into, is always play the long game. Never play the short game. People that make ridiculous demands. Look, like, what's my rider? Like, if I'm, for instance, on this show, it's going to be a Diet Coke and a cup of tea. Like, play the long game. Be very easy to work with. Show up on time. Be respectful of others, and be the person that you would want to work with. I think that's very important. So then you develop, like Peter Geist, who just called me. I'm very excited about something that might be happening. Good news. He said, you know what? I spoke to Elan Gale, this guy that I'd worked with on another show on ABC. He said, oh, you're going to love working with her. She's the easiest person to work with. Rob Mills, head of ABC, like, Lisa, I want to work with you forever. People, when they're insecure and they have self-importance and they strut their stuff and they're, like bullshit demands, that's not the long game. There's people that need to feel important. Always play the long game. Build the bridges, build the relationships. And if somebody really doesn't listen to you or treat you with respect, cut it off, tell them bollocks, and walk away.
You have got so many businesses today, partnerships, your own businesses. And would you say that's one of the big reasons behind, how you've built so many different businesses?
Well, we don't really have partnerships. There's only Sir that we have a partnership in, and that was, we invested in that restaurant right at the beginning and then developed it. It's 10 times the size that it was because we wanted a visa. I was very honest about that. We've told this story 100 times. I went in for lunch. I said, do you know of any restaurants for sale? Obviously meaning that one. They said, I'm looking for a partner. He said, I've got a consortium of 5 partners. And he was like, well, I need the money because we're buying the partner out that was there. I said, well, I've got it in my handbag. And he said, no, I'm serious. I'm serious. I was joking, of course. And I said, all right. So we shook hands. We didn't have a contract. We shook hands that night, the 4 of us. And that was 20 years ago. So we did that to get our visa. But normally I prefer autonomy. And it's not from arrogance that I know best, because I always believe deferring to people, if listen to people that are better at it than you do. Rob Mills actually told me the other day, I had dinner with him, he flew in for one night. This shows how amazing they are with talent, relations. And he flew in for one night and he told me about something that was a great idea on our show. And I said, wow, that was such a good idea of yours, Rob. Because I created that show, with my partner, Julie Pizzi, Vanderpump Villa I'm talking about. And he said, no, it wasn't my idea. I said, take it, say it's your idea. He said, no, it was my idea. He said, you know what, Lisa, I'm smart enough to know that other people have great ideas and I don't need the credit for it. And I thought, yeah, that's really cool, Yeah. That's really cool.
So it's interesting because we've kind of followed your journey along this interview. We've started in London, we've moved out to LA, we've gone on to Vanderpump, we've gone on to Real Housewives.
I lived in France for years as well, in the middle of that. Lived in France for 6 years.
And then you just mentioned how Vanderpump Rules came about.
Yes.
Off of the back of your first bar, Sir, and this was the first show that you produced. So
yeah.
What was that like, and why did that happen?
After the first season, well, I don't think many people know this, but after the first season of Real Housewives, I said, oh, I think that was great. Thank you. They were like, no, you signed a contract for 5 years. I was like, yeah, but I think that was enough for me. It was great. great, I did it, you know? And they said I was like, I think I became fan favorite in that first season. I thought it was great. And I remember actually when they first started shooting it, the first interview, and they were like, I said, oh yeah, I'd sex my husband, twice a year. So I have sex with my husband, Christmas and birthdays, and not my birthday, it's another day off. And suddenly when the show came out, that was on the news, and they were like, Lisa, you only have sex twice a year. And I was like, are they serious? They took this seriously. And I was like, no, not every year, twice a year. Sometimes it's less than that. I was thinking, fuck me, if they're going to take everything I say seriously, I'm in trouble, you know? And, you know, and there was a famous line that became, you know, I said, my husband calls me a sex object. Every time he wants sex, I object. And so that became, and so I was taking the piss, you know? We were very happily married. We were banging like rabbits, but I told the world that we had sex twice a year. And
I'm going to say that. TMI right now.
Well, you know, not really.
TMI.
Okay.
I'm your nephew.
All right, nephew.
Let's skip on.
But, yeah.
Moving on.
But what I'm saying is, you know, it suddenly became like, oh, okay, so everybody's going to be very literal about. So I was approached after the first season by this guy, producer. He said, and he was quite a well-known producer, I want to do a show with you. So I said, what's it about? He said, oh, it's more like, you know, it's about beauty and it's this, that, and the other. So I said, I like the idea of doing this, like kind of talk show about beauty and stuff. I like that. So then this producer ran into Andy Cohen in the Hamptons. And he said, I hear you want to do a show with Lisa, you know, which is on our network. And he said, yeah, I do. So Bravo were like, I don't think so. So they came to me. Andy said, I want to meet you for drinks in New York. All right then. He said, I don't normally do this, you know, when the show's not on air because he doesn't fraternize with them. So, and Andy and I since became very good friends. That's why I always defend him, because all that other horse shit against him is exactly what it is. It's horse shit from people who have been fired. Andy Cohen is a brilliant guy, and I will always have his back because all that other nonsense.
You're loyal.
Yeah, I don't care. I always stand up for what's right. So he said to me, oh, you're going to do that show? He said, well, we're going to give you a show. I said, you are? Well, yeah. He said, yeah. He said, what about at Villa Blanca? So cooking shows were very popular, and I had quite a good hunky chef there, and I thought, well, maybe. I thought, yeah. And I said, you know what, it's a bit wholesome, Villa Blanca. It's like Beverly Hills, it's very pretty, got a lot of old movie stars in there. And I thought, no. I said, what about Sir? And I sent him this picture of me sitting in a chair that had been shot by an Argentinian photographer, very good photographer, with all the staff around me that they just had a random photo shoot. And I sent that picture, and literally as they got that picture, they picked up the phone and said, let's do a sizzle. So we did the sizzle, and I chose, I think we had about a couple, 200 or 300 people working for us at the time, and we chose this 7 people that were totally connected. I gave them to Bravo and to my co-producer for the audition, and that's what we went with.
So in this picture that you had taken and you sent
it wasn't them.
Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah. No, it wasn't them. It was 1 or 2 of them were in there, but it was just like, okay, let's write about the underbelly of, you know, West Hollywood and the, you know, what goes on behind the scenes. Let's do that show. But because they had a group of people that were working that were connected, those are the people that I brought in for the audition. Katie, Tom Schwartz, who was there kind of by osmosis, you know, he was like, and then we had Sacndavol I took from Villa Blanca, but he was going out with Kristen that worked at Sir. Sheena, I took her over from Villa Blanca, because I knew she really wanted to be famous. And yeah, that was it. It was 2006. Darcy was there, obviously. Kristen was there. Katie was there.
This episode is sponsored by one of my businesses, Vanderpump FX. If you're a business sending or receiving money from abroad, contact us. Most banks and providers overcharge you on the exchange rates. At Vanderpump FX, we can help businesses and individuals like you save on every transaction. With savings up to 5% compared to most banks. We make sure your money stays where it belongs, in your pockets, not the banks. You've essentially conquered the hospitality industry.
Conquered isn't the word, I'd say survived the hospitality
We'll
industry.
get on to that actually in a minute. So you've survived, you've thrived in the hospitality industry.
We've had some hard times, so COVID was very difficult for Ken and I, very difficult.
Then you thrived in the property that you did, you know,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
You can't deny you were making money on the
Yeah,
properties and the decorating. How did you then decide, you're producing Vanderpump Rules, how did you then decide what you wanted from that? How did you know what to do?
Vanderpump Rules was a great education, for sure. And it was a hit show that, and it still is, that kind of broke boundaries. And it was very important for us to bring a different model of television to Bravo, because I didn't want it to compete with Beverly Hills Housewives. So it was edgier, naughtier, younger, you know, it was like, so we went with that. That became very successful. Now, then I've still been talent on things I haven't produced, like I was on Pooch Perfect for ABC and other different things. But then I thought, what again is my passion? My passion was to buy a chateau and to create some incredible upstairs, downstairs, back of house, because it's quite hard to film people's businesses. You know, you can't just walk in and get access to any business. And John Hamm from Mad Men came up to me at the upfronts last year when I was with Gordon Ramsay for our show that we had here. And he said, you know what, you doing a show in the restaurant business, I thought was so fantastic, always, because I worked in a restaurant, John Hamm said. He's also known for having a huge penis, by the way.
I've heard.
Yeah. In fact, I've been told.
I've been told.
But this was at the upfronts, nothing shady going on. And so he said, you know, you did this show in the restaurant business. He said, it was unbelievable, you know. He said, because I was in the restaurant business and, you know, as a waiter. And I said, well, funny you say that, John, because your show, Mad Men, when you were doing a show about the advertising industry, my father was the creative director. And when I saw your show, then I understood about the advertising industry and why my father was also so avant-garde, because, I mean, that was pretty racy times in the 60s in the advertising business. So Vanderpump Villa was like a fantasy type of show, and I have to say it has evolved. This season is very different to our first season. I think initially we wanted it to be a little bit more of a nod to the current day Downton Abbey, but collectively with ABC, they had the brilliant idea of bringing people from the reality world, which is why you were on it. And mostly they came from America because we have an American audience. And we will see, you know, it'll be evidentiary in the analytics of how well, you know, Made in Chelsea does do, you know, when it comes to
I'm a little bit biased here. I think it's the best season ever.
Well, it is the best season ever. It is. And it's because when people are in reality, they come to play. Whereas normal people coming before a camera, it is very kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, I think that has been really interesting for when my friends and I went and we stayed at the villa and we were on the show, was we forgot about the cameras because we'd done all the cameras shows in the past. So we forgot about it and we just had a great time. We had fun, right?
But also the way we shoot is very different. Yeah. We want to follow the true story always. We keep going. We don't kind of do any set up, you know, and everybody has a different style of how they shoot the show. But for us, the true story is always the most interesting.
I think, you know, Vanderpump Rules went on, you know, the season of Sacndavol for over 4 million views in one episode. It's quite easy to say you've also conquered the reality world. You've also
I will feel not conquered, because then it means it's kind of time to move on. But I would say when we get an Emmy, and it's not taken away from us by Ryan Reynolds, who shouldn't be in that category anyway.
That's not reality TV, is
Exactly. So then I will feel maybe slightly nearer to the mark of conquering. But right now, I'm hopeful. I have 2 shows that are very different models, for sure, with the same essence of people working for me. But they're both brilliant.
Let's go to Vanderpump Rules. Biggest season ever. One of the biggest series on TV.
Yeah.
And then you think, you know, you could have easily done another season, launched off the back of Sacndavol and, you know, made a lot of money.
But I did do another season.
But no, but my point is, at that point, why did you then go recast?
We did one season after Sacndavol, which was about the fallout of it. I was always emphatic to my partner, producing partner, that I never wanted to go down on a sinking ship. And I felt that after the Sacndavol fallout, and we'd always have this conversation, how is it going to work? It was more difficult. They weren't, they didn't want to film with each other. It was too difficult. And I felt we told the story, but there was still another story to tell. So we talked about it, and then we had already a group of interesting people that worked there, and we thought, let's add a couple of extra and see how it goes. And it's a great season. Right. It's a different season. But the funniest thing is, I think, when all that Sacndavol, the reach was so far and wide. I went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and they came up with the roast of the president and, you know, talking and the comedian and everything. And he went, I don't want you to be like that guy on Vanderpump Rules. Have you seen the Vanderpump Rules? And there it was, Vanderpump Rules was mentioned twice in the presidential roast. And I thought, wow, okay, everybody's laughing and clapping. Yeah. We felt like total turkeys sitting there as they were pointing the finger, and the president was there and everybody was laughing and clapping. And I thought, yeah, I guess we made it. We're right in the middle of the zeitgeist. We are, yeah.
So that's interesting. You thought the story was told, and there was nowhere for the story to go. And
After, yes.
And that's why you recast
also, it became very expensive. You know, Andy said to me on Watch What Happens Live, I heard a playback of that in the car, and Ken kept like, what is this on my phone? And it kept playing back. And he said, what do you think of Katie saying that the new season of Vanderpump Rules feels cheap? I said, yeah, you know what? She's right, fucking right. I said, it's younger, it's fresher, and it's cheaper than paying for their expensive houses.
And also, that's not a
They
good...
haven't even seen it, I know.
And also, but that's not a good entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur. You want to cut costs, right? Make more money.
Well, yeah, right. No, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to make more money because I'm employed by Bravo, but yeah, it became a very expensive show to do as well.
So you came into this and you said you would answer anything.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask the question.
Go ahead.
With old Vanderpump Rules castmates, what do you make of what Sheena says?
Who? What did she say? She says...
You don't know the real Lisa Vanderpump.
Well,
has she done an expose or book? Is anyone even reading it?
I don't know. I thought it was a scratch and sniff book, wasn't it? Fuck me, I don't know. You know what? As I've said, the lion doesn't care what the sheep are doing.
Where do you go next? What keeps driving you?
Well, opportunity, capitalising on opportunity, a love of work, of design. I have been flattered and honoured to have been put in a very unique position now for Caesars Entertainment that I have the best relationship with. That's why I told you. My advice to you, play the long game. Make sure you build bridges and have great relationships with the people you work with. Make sure you deliver, never be shady, show up on time, do the shit you're supposed to do, and do it with a positive attitude. I have great relationships because I work with 4 corporations, NBC, great relationship, ABC, great relationship, Kroger with my flower brand, and, you know, now Caesars Entertainment. Now, they invest a lot of confidence in the Vanderpump brand. So for them, you are getting such a free ride, by the way, with that name. For them to turn around, isn't it? Yeah, for them,
you're going to catch me at the Vanderpump Hotel all the time.
Right. So for them to turn around and say, we actually want to change the name of one of our hotels. Normally they're called the Flamingo or Caesar's Palace or Lucky, or Horseshoe, or all those. To put my name and my brand on a hotel and let me play with the design and create a room and do all these things, I couldn't possibly say no to that, nor would I want to. Is it going to be hard work? Yes. Now that's a challenge. But also I have to keep in mind as we go forward, like with my flower brand, like with our wine brand, like with our restaurants, we are always about attainable luxury. So that's very important because, if we jumped into something and we were like, oh yeah, the rooms are $2,000 a night. No. All the people that have supported me, always, I very rarely say no to a picture. Very, very rarely. Maybe if I'm eating or something, I'll say, can you give me a second? Do every picture, do it with a smile on your face. Make sure sometimes it's difficult, but my fans are so important to me. They've shown up for me, especially when I was having the shit beaten out of me on Housewives, and so I'm loyal to them. Now, for me to bring out a brand of wine that's, $500 a bottle, or, a restaurant where it's hundreds of dollars a head, that's not who I'm looking after or who I'm kind of being hospitable to, so to speak. So the hotel will be attainable luxury for sure.
Everything you've done in your life is so luxurious, so extra, so over the top. That's why people love watching you on TV. One of the many reasons.
But that's my home. But if I was suddenly certainly the Vanderpump is going to be all about that, but it's going to be affordable. And when I say affordable, I don't want to say cheap, because that's not the word at all. Attainable luxury.
Love that. So our name, Vanderpump, now a global icon. But what does it mean?
You're welcome, by the way. My back's aching from carrying you, but yeah.
But what does it mean to you to be a Vanderpump?
It was funny because when I first started in the television business as a young actress, there was a lot of talk about should I change my name because it was so ridiculous. But that was, in the days of the studios, and it was 76 when, and I was like, no, I like it. And when I married Ken at 21, normally women change their name to their husband's name, and I didn't. I said, no, I'm not going to be Lisa Todd. I'm Lisa Vanderpump. I like this name. I want to keep it. So I never changed my name. And ironically, it's kind of funny now because people say to Ken Todd, who was a bloody legend in London, they call him Mr. Vanderpump in America. And he's got enough confidence to go, yeah, okay. And my father's probably flipping in his grave at there being another Mr. Vanderpump. What does it mean to me? I think I have a lot of regret that, lament the fact that my parents aren't here now. I think they would have loved to see the Vanderpump Hotel. I think it will be iconic. It's on that 50-yard line on the Strip, and I remember taking them to Las Vegas. So I often say to Ken, to lose your dad, my brother, my only sibling, my mother within a year, and then now my dad, that sense of family. Every time I've come to London, I've always thought of straight away my parents or my brother, and then suddenly they're gone. I think, I want to make that name iconic. I do. It's our legacy, but also our legacy, are our children. And Max doesn't particularly want to be in the business. He loves that rural lifestyle. He loves that Idaho thing. And Pandora is brilliant. She will take that name, Vanderpump, and run with it. And you're my son now. I told you I was stepping into the shoes that your father I said that to you. The day or the week that he died, I said, I want you to think, I have the same kind of DNA, except I'm the feminine version. A lot of people say I have balls anyway. So, I'm going to be your father or in that position. Yeah. And your mother's a wonderful, wonderful mother. Can't minimize that. Yeah. But she has a different take on life than I do. I'm very driven, and I was much more similar, to your...
As I always tell
father.
people, to your utter dismay, that you are my father in a wig.
I'm okay with that, I've always said I'm a man in a woman's body.
Exactly. And it is, obviously dealing with your brother, my father's death was a hard time.
Very hard. Very. We cannot. It was a tragedy for us.
And being able to at least see him in you, in my brother.
Well, as I see,
Yeah.
you are my brother. I mean, you're the very good, happy side of my brother. Jack is the more cerebral, serious one. You are gregarious, and you're this, and you're confident. And those two sides, he's very studious, Jack, and is a different, put together, was your father, my brother. So it's ironic that you're so different, but yet you're both sides of him. And we miss him. But another thing that was very difficult, we've never spoken about, and if you're being candid, for my parents to have been through that tragedy and found him as parents, we talked about that. My mother died within a year, so without warning, so the whole thing was very devastating. But, I thank God I have you and I have Jack, and now we have Alice and we have Amy on the way.
It's an exciting time. I'm desperately sad that I will never be able to show my father.
You said that to me when he died.
What I'm building.
Yeah.
And I guess
Yes.
you must have the
Same feeling.
of what you're still building.
Yes.
You've already shown them so much, but
Yeah.
they will never see the finished product.
Yeah. Unless we believe as a Christian that they're looking down, maybe. But I know for you that's tough, because I don't think my brother, your father, ever really validated you but you weren't grown up really. When you've grown up more 21. In the last few years. Yeah. And, you've got his name, you make him proud, and that's all we can do. Yeah. We are their legacy. So that's it. But, I'm proud of you. I tell you that. Yeah, I do criticize you sometimes. Not criticize you, constructive criticism.
Make me better.
Yeah, that's what I always say. I'm making you better. And look how far you've come.
Yeah.
I'm very, very proud of you. I think you are going to do very well. But as I say, if I can give you words of advice, play the long game.
And I really, really appreciate you doing this with us and with me. It's been really, really lovely to hear everything.
Because I love you.
Thanks for watching Filthy Rich with me, Sam Vanderpump. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more episodes and exclusive content. For this podcast, search Vanderpod on all major audio streaming platforms. See you soon.